In the heart of the world's densest tropical rainforests, where the canopy seals off the sky in a green shroud, and even midday light must filter through like sun through stained glass, life is measured not only in tooth and claw, but often in millimeter and milligram. Every surface, from moss-darkened roots to the waxy undersides of leaves, pulses with movement so small it might escape the eye entirely. But these are no mere background characters to the larger drama of the jungle. Here, the tiniest inhabitants wield power far beyond their size, shaping ecosystems, toppling giants, and deciding who lives and who dies. In this theater of life, it is the miniature predators, parasites, and poisons that set the rules. Underfoot, in the leaf litter thick with decay and the slow churn of decomposition, a hunting party is already underway. Ants, barely the width of a pencil lead, fan out in disciplined columns. They're not the famed army ants of documentary fame, but Fidole soldiers, their oversized heads gleaming like bronze armor under a film of humidity. As they march, they don't just seek food, they build territory, test borders, probe the edges of rival colonies. Each scout is a sensor, its antennae tasting the world, its feet reading chemical trails like the pages of a book. When they find something, say the soft carcass of a fallen katydid, it's not dragged back piecemeal. It's disassembled with dispassionate efficiency, every joint and membrane reduced to parts, fed into the social body of the colony like nutrients into a bloodstream. Above them, nestled in a moist crease of a heliconia leaf, waits another assassin, the jumping spider Lysomanes viridis. Its body shimmers faintly, translucent green with flecks of red, like a jewel forgotten in a rainstorm. 8 eyes arrayed with alien precision flicker with micro-movements as it tracks a gnat on the opposite leaf edge. It doesn't pounce blindly. It calculates, gauges wind currents and launch vectors, reading a three-dimensional world in ways far beyond our comprehension. And when it jumps, without warning, without sound, it becomes a projectile, legs tucked, trajectory precise. The gnat has no chance. The strike is silent, surgical, and final. These aren't the jungle's only small-scale killers. Some hide in plain sight, mimics wrapped in falsehoods. The assassin bug, Acanthaspis petax, collects the desiccated corpses of its prey and attaches them to its own back, carrying a ghastly trophy rack as camouflage. To the casual eye, it appears as little more than debris caught on a thorn. But beneath the husk pile, the bug moves with eerie intelligence, waiting for another unwitting victim to stray close enough for its stabbing proboscis. When it strikes, it injects enzymes that liquefy the insides of its prey before drinking it dry. The jungle may seem overrun by noise and motion, but these deaths go unnoticed. They leave no screams, no chase, no gore, just stillness. There is no neat boundary between predator and prey in the micro-world. Many creatures play both roles depending on circumstance, time of day, or the developmental stage of their life cycle. The tree frog tadpole, for instance, might drift peacefully in a bromeliad pool one day, and then, under the pressure of competition or low oxygen, begin hunting its own siblings. Cannibalism in confined aquatic environments is not aberrant, it's strategy. The narrow water chambers inside bromeliads are resource traps, and the ones who grow fastest, by any means, often metamorphose first and escape both predation and suffocation. And then there are the wasps. Evolution has made a cruel masterpiece in these insects, whose reproductive strategy could be mistaken for science fiction were it not observable in real time. A female Ampulex compressor, the emerald cockroach wasp, finds a host not by chasing, but by surgical manipulation. She locates an adult cockroach, stings it not to kill, but to paralyze its front legs. Then, with terrifying precision, she delivers a second sting directly into the roach's brain ganglia. The venom doesn't end the cockroach's life. Instead, it alters its behavior, shutting down its escape reflex. Docile now, compliant, the roach follows the wasp like a leashed dog to its doom. Inside a burrow, the wasp lays a single egg on the roach's abdomen, then seals the chamber. The larva will hatch and feed, alive, on its chemically lobotomized host. Even more insidious is the realm of parasites and parasitoids. In the warm, saturated understory where fungal spores are as omnipresent as dust in the desert, a singularly lethal drama unfolds. Ophiocordyceps unilateralis, the so-called zombie ant fungus, begins its life as a spore, inhaled or absorbed by a foraging carpenter ant. Inside the host, the fungus grows slowly, threading itself through the ant's muscles and nervous system. But it doesn't kill immediately. Instead, it waits, carefully regulating the ant's behavior. At a critical moment, often in the afternoon humidity when fungal spread is optimized, the infected ant climbs high, clamps onto a leaf or twig in a characteristic death grip, and dies. From its head erupts the fruiting body of the fungus, releasing new spores onto the forest floor below, precisely where other ants will pass through. Some of the jungle's smallest predators don't even move. The pit traps of antlions, the sticky glue snares of fungus gnat larvae, the barbed setae of urticating caterpillars, all are weapons of stillness. They turn the forest into a labyrinth of traps, where even a misplaced step can be a fatal error. For many animals, death is not loud or cinematic. It is a fall into silence, swallowed by soil, digestion beginning even before the heart stops. Yet for all its lethality, the miniature jungle is not just about violence. It's a system of balances, each predation event feeding into decomposition, soil enrichment, nutrient cycling. The death of one caterpillar may feed an ant colony. The remains of a fly, discarded by a spider, may fertilize the roots of an orchid. These connections are intricate, invisible threads that bind the macro ecosystem together. Remove too many of the small players and the whole structure begins to sag. Insects, arachnids, nematodes, fungi, these organisms form the plumbing and wiring of the rainforest. Their roles are not glamorous, but they are foundational. Ironically, it is these tiny creatures that are least understood. Despite decades of biological exploration, most rainforest insects remain undescribed. New species are discovered regularly, some through traps, others by accident. A single tree in the Amazon may harbor hundreds of beetle species, many of them never before catalogued. The scale of this biodiversity defies easy categorization, and it's shrinking. Deforestation doesn't just fell trees, it crushes the microscopic empires within, erases behavioral tapestries that took millions of years to evolve. As leafcutter ants lose their fungal gardens, as predatory mites vanish from dead wood, the jungle becomes quieter, not in volume, but in function. To see the jungle clearly is to see past the birdsong and bright colors, to where the true machinery grinds on a scale measured in grains and fibers. It is here, in the underleaf kingdoms and drop-of-water battlefields, that the rainforest keeps its secrets and defends its balance. These creatures may be small, but they do not operate on a lesser plane. They are architects of survival, harbingers of death, engineers of decay. And in their own meticulous way, they are the jungle's most lethal. In the saturated lowland forests of Central and South America, where the trunks of towering saber trees vanish into fog above the canopy and vines hang like muscular ropes in the understory, there exists an ant unlike any other, known locally by names that translate to the one that wounds deeply or the ant of fire, and scientifically as Paraponera clavata. The bullet ant does not live in shadows, it does not creep or evade, or it claims territory openly, patrolling tree bases and forest floors with a kind of heavy-footed confidence rare among insects. And it has earned that confidence the hard way. Its sting has been described almost clinically as equivalent to being shot. That's not hyperbole. The The pain, immediate and full-bodied, radiates not just from the site of the sting, but deep into muscle, bone, and nerve. Victims often compare the sensation to waves of molten iron forcing their way through the bloodstream, and it doesn't fade quickly. The agony can last a full 24 hours, sometimes longer, punctuated by spasms, nausea, and hallucinations. In the Schmidt Sting Pain Index, a scale devised by entomologist Justin Schmidt to measure the pain of insect stings, Paraponera clavata sits at the top, tied with none. But the ant's fearsome reputation isn't matched by frenzied aggression. Bullet ants don't swarm like fire ants or launch chemical barrages like leafcutters. They are deliberate, slow even. Their workers, up to 30 millimeters long, move with measured precision, their segmented antennae sweeping the air like radar as they patrol the moss-laced buttresses of their nesting trees. Each ant is glossy and dark, almost coal-like in color, with jaws that resemble heavy-duty pincers and eyes that seem oversized for an ant, perhaps fitting for one that relies as much on vision as on pheromones. The colony, numbering in the low thousands, makes its nest at the base of a large tree, often in cavities beneath roots or in decaying wood. It's not hidden, but neither is it marked by conspicuous activity. That, too, is a warning. When a potential threat approaches, be it a curious monkey, a foraging human, or an unsuspecting predator, the ants don't immediately attack. Instead, the perimeter guards begin to stir, lifting their abdomens high in the air, exposing the sting chamber and releasing a potent pheromone. This chemical signal serves a dual purpose: to coordinate a defense and to warn. Unlike many other ants which rely on overwhelming numbers, bullet ants rely on deterrence. The threat of pain does much of the work for them. If that warning fails, then the sting is deployed, and with it, one of the most complex venoms in the insect world. The active ingredient in bullet ant venom is ponerotoxin, a small peptide neurotoxin that affects voltage-gated sodium channels in nerve cells. This disrupts the normal flow of electrical signals, essentially forcing nerves to fire uncontrollably. The result is a kind of forced pain, muscle spasms, intense burning, and even temporary paralysis, engineered not to kill outright, but to make an unforgettable impression. It's a defense system optimized not for efficiency, but for reputation. Predators that experience a single sting rarely return for a second encounter. And yet, for all its notoriety, the bullet ant is not a mindless aggressor. Its venom is costly to produce, and the act of stinging exposes the ant to danger. Each sting is deliberate. The ant arches its abdomen beneath its body, anchors itself with claws and jaws, and drives its stinger in with a force rarely seen in invertebrates. There's nothing frantic about it, no rapid jabs or chaotic motion. Just one slow, powerful insertion, as if the ant understands the effect needs no repetition. Strangely, this capacity for excruciating pain has earned the ant a place in human culture. Among the Satere-Mawe people of Brazil, the bullet ant plays a central role in a ceremonial rite of passage. Young men don gloves woven from palm leaves and filled with dozens of the ants, then wear them for several minutes as part of their initiation into adulthood. The ants sting repeatedly, and the initiates must endure it in silence. The ritual is not symbolic of toughness. It is toughness metabolized through neurochemistry imprinted onto the body. The pain leaves no permanent damage, but its memory is seared into the nervous system. In this way, Paraponera clavata bridges the natural and cultural worlds, its sting transcending biology and entering myth. In the forest ecosystem, the bullet ant plays roles that extend beyond its sting. As omnivores and scavengers, they feed on nectar, small invertebrates, and the secretions of hemipterans like tree hoppers. In turn, they are sometimes preyed upon by birds or other arthropods. Though such interactions are rare, and usually involve only juvenile or isolated individuals. Even parasitic flies, such as members of the Phoridae family, target bullet ants, laying eggs in or on the ant's body. The larvae then consume the ant from the inside out, bypassing the defenses of the adult colony by attacking during foraging when the ant is most vulnerable and isolated. Inside the nest, caste roles are not rigidly specialized. Though workers may vary slightly in size, there is no true soldier caste. All bullet ants are capable of combat, all are capable of the sting, and all are fiercely loyal to the colony. Communication is efficient but complex, involving pheromone trails, touch, and even subtle body movements. When a food source is discovered, recruitment is immediate but not chaotic. A single scout may lead a column, often walking backward to guide her nestmates toward a fallen fruit or insect carcass. There is order beneath the aggression, structure behind the pain. The rainforest itself seems to recognize the bullet ant as a kind of keystone sentinel. Other insects avoid their nesting trees, and even mammals learn to steer clear of certain routes. Their presence influences the behavior of organisms up and down the food chain, from the caterpillars that learn to avoid foraging in the lower canopy to the arboreal snakes that alter their hunting patterns around ant territory. Even plants have been observed to grow differently near bullet ant nests, though whether this is correlation or causation remains under study. And yet, for all its lethality, Paraponera clavata faces pressures from deforestation and habitat fragmentation. Its range, once spread widely across humid lowland forests from Honduras to Brazil, is narrowing. In agricultural zones, especially where pesticides are used, colonies often disappear. Unlike generalist ants, bullet ants do not thrive in disturbed areas. They require mature forest, stable microclimates, and uninterrupted root systems for their nests. Their absence is often one of the first signs that a patch of jungle is no longer intact. In the end, the bullet ant is more than a footnote in the catalogue of venomous insects. It is a biological paradox, a creature whose sting is among the most debilitating in the world, and yet who wields it with restraint and purpose. Its pain is not a random hazard, but a deliberate message. One that says, "Remember me." And indeed, those who meet Paraponera clavata in the field rarely forget the experience. Through the lens of pain, the bullet ant teaches a lesson about respect, scale, and ecological consequence. Its sting is not just a weapon, it is an event, a neurochemical alarm that forces its victim to remember the invisible empires crawling beneath every fallen leaf. In this jungle, where danger often comes in silence and surprise, the bullet ant stands out not for its speed or deception, but for its unapologetic directness. It does not hide, and it does not bluff. It walks openly, stinger exposed, in a forest that has learned to give it space. In the hushed stillness of the rainforest understory, where the light is dim and filtered through 1,000 overlapping shades of green, not all predators pounce. Some wait. Here, among the broad, rain-slicked leaves and gnarled stems of undergrowth, an insect the size of a thumbnail holds its place in perfect stillness. Its limbs, jointed and thorn-like, splay at irregular angles, mimicking the dry debris that collects in quiet pockets along the forest floor. To the passing eye, it is nothing more than detritus, a fleck of dead leaf or insect shell caught in a ripple of bark. But it is alive, watching, waiting. This is Acanthaspis petax, one of many assassin bug species scattered across the tropics, and it is a killer sculpted by patience. The assassin bug does not chase its prey. It lies in ambush, preferring concealment to speed, certainty to risk. Its camouflage is not purely visual. Many species of assassin bugs actively decorate their bodies with the desiccated husks of past victims, attaching the lifeless exoskeletons of ants, beetles and flies to their backs with a secretion from abdominal glands. This macabre cloak, often mistaken for fungal debris or dead insect clusters, serves as a kind of passive armor. It disrupts the silhouette, masks scent, and creates a grotesque visual decoy. In a forest where survival often depends on not being seen, Acanthaspis has learned to become more than invisible. It has learned to be mistaken for the aftermath of violence it caused. When a potential victim wanders close, perhaps a foraging ant drawn to a nectar gland or a small fly landing to groom its wings, the assassin bug doesn't flinch. It lets the prey close the distance, relying on the passivity of its disguise. Then, with sudden and startling speed, the bug lunges forward and plunges its proboscis, long, thin and rigid, into the prey's body. It is not a bite in the traditional sense, but a piercing injection, like a syringe penetrating a sealed bag. The bug delivers a mix of digestive enzymes that immediately begin to break down internal tissue, liquefying organs, muscle and fat into a slush that can be sucked back through the same proboscis minutes later. The process is not instantaneous. The victim may twitch or jerk weakly as its body collapses from the inside out, but the bug holds it firm with barbed legs, its feeding uninterrupted. The moment is clinical, silent, and decisive. Despite their name, not all assassin bugs are lethal hunters. The Reduvidae family, of which assassin bugs are a part, includes a wide range of species with diverse lifestyles. Some specialize in ambushing ants, using their decorated bodies to infiltrate colonies. Others are generalists, preying on whatever small arthropod they can overpower. A few, like the infamous kissing bugs of Central and South America, have turned their feeding adaptations to vertebrates, drinking blood from mammals and, in some cases, transmitting parasites such as Trypanosoma cruzi, the causative agent of Chagas disease. Yet Acanthaspis petax and its kin are strictly entomophagous. Their ecological role is both surgical and ruthless, thinning the excess, removing the unwary, and maintaining a strange equilibrium among leaf-dwelling insects. Their vision is acute, driven by large compound eyes that bulge slightly from the head. While not capable of the fine details seen in vertebrate predators, their eyesight is tuned for motion. Subtle shifts in the angle of light reflecting off a wing, a change in shadow as a beetle passes between sunflecks. These are enough to trigger the internal mechanism of pursuit. But pursuit for an assassin bug does not mean chase. It means choice. The decision to strike is not impulsive. Each movement is calculated, almost measured, as if conserving energy for the moment when precision matters most. The structure of the proboscis itself is one of nature's more elegant solutions to the challenges of feeding through force. Unlike the saw-like mandibles of ants or the crushing jaws of beetles, the assassin bug's rostrum must be able to pierce a variety of exoskeletons, some thick, others papery, without damaging itself. It is segmented, retractable, and reinforced internally with ridges that channel both salivary enzymes out and liquefied tissue back in. The insertion is not reckless. The bug often probes lightly first, testing the angle, locating a soft spot between sclerites or around a joint, before driving the rostrum deeper. The act is surgical, almost anatomical in precision. But the assassin bug is not without its predators. Birds, frogs, and larger invertebrates such as mantises may attempt to take them, though the experience is often unpleasant. Many assassin bugs possess chemical defenses, releasing noxious compounds when threatened. Others rely on their cryptic appearance to avoid detection altogether. Still, mistakes happen. A tree frog, misjudging the lifeless mound on a leaf as inanimate, might lash out with a tongue strike, only to recoil, tasting a rush of bitter irritants and thrashing as the bug escapes beneath cover. Survival here is as much about being unappetizing as it is about being undetectable. Reproduction in assassin bugs is less spectacular but no less deliberate. Mating involves prolonged physical contact, often lasting hours, during which time the pair remains vulnerable to predators. After fertilization, the female lays small clutches of eggs on leaves, bark, or in crevices, securing them with an adhesive secretion. The nymphs that hatch resemble miniature adults but lack wings and reproductive organs. They begin hunting almost immediately, though their targets are smaller and their proboscises less robust. Molting through several instars, they gradually develop the traits of mature assassins: larger limbs, stronger exoskeletons, more refined camouflage. Each molt brings risk, as the soft-bodied insect is vulnerable until its new cuticle hardens, and predation at this stage is common. Few reach adulthood. Those that do are efficient from the outset. In ecological terms, assassin bugs serve a vital function in limiting herbivorous insect populations. By preying selectively on soft-bodied or slow-moving insects, they reduce damage to plants and influence the behavior of other predators. Some studies suggest that the presence of assassin bugs can alter the foraging patterns of ant colonies, especially in areas where the bugs specialize in ant predation. This has cascading effects on seed dispersal, pollination, and even fungal growth, as ants play multiple roles in these systems. The removal or overabundance of assassin bugs disrupts this balance in subtle but measurable ways. Yet, like many of their kind, assassin bugs are threatened by habitat loss. Their reliance on intact microhabitats, leaf litter, undergrowth, undisturbed bark, makes them vulnerable to logging, agriculture, and pesticide drift. They are not adaptive generalists like cockroaches or house spiders. They require complexity, structure, and a web of prey species to sustain their own niche. Remove those threads, and the assassin vanishes, leaving behind only the silence where it once waited. In this way, the vampire of the leaves is not just a symbol of cunning predation, but of ecological sensitivity. It is a creature that embodies the tension between violence and precision, horror and function. It feeds by disassembling life, but it also stabilizes the chaos of insect excess. Its method is efficient. Its presence a signal that the forest machinery, intricate and ancient, is still working as designed. There are few signs of the assassin bug's passage. No drag marks, no trails, no audible clue. Just the occasional empty husk of a once living thing, and somewhere nearby, a cluster of legs in stillness, cloaked in trophies, waiting once again for the forest to forget it is there. In the saturated silence of the rainforest morning, when the mist still clings to the canopy and the humidity hangs thick enough to bead on every surface, a flash of color pulses against the green, not high above in the trees, but low, ankle height or lower, where water seeps and the soil never truly dries. At first glance, the object appears too vivid to be natural. A bead-sized creature with skin painted in luminous shades of electric blue, fire orange, or brilliant yellow sits motionless on a damp bromeliad leaf, seemingly indifferent to the predators that move all around it. In a forest built on camouflage and concealment, such audacity is rare. It is not a display of carelessness. It is a warning. This is a poison dart frog, member of the family Dendrobatidae, and it is one of the most chemically defended vertebrates on Earth. Its warning is not a bluff. Its colors are not decoration. They are signals, calibrated by millions of years of evolution to say the same thing to all who see them: touch me, and you may die. Despite their reputation, these frogs are tiny, some no larger than a paperclip, others barely heavier than a raindrop. They move with jerky precision, hopping not in great arcs but in short calculated bursts. Their toes, tipped with adhesive discs, grip leaves slick with condensation as they traverse a vertical world of moss, bark, and bromeliad cups. Their calls, thin and insect-like, carry just far enough to reach potential mates, but not so far as to draw the attention of larger eavesdroppers. Unlike many amphibians, they are active during the day, relying not on darkness, but on their vivid coloration for protection. It is an evolutionary gamble that has paid off. Very few predators are willing to test whether a frog so conspicuously marked is truly as dangerous as it appears. The danger is not metaphorical. These frogs secrete batrachotoxins, potent alkaloids that disrupt the normal function of sodium channels in nerve and muscle cells. Even a minuscule dose can be enough to cause paralysis or cardiac failure in small animals, and in some species, such as Philobates terribilis, the levels are high enough to be lethal to humans. The frogs do not manufacture the toxin themselves. Instead, they acquire it through diet, consuming a steady supply of alkaloid-bearing invertebrates, such as ants, mites and beetles, found only in their native rainforest environments. In captivity, fed on domestic insects, the frogs lose their toxicity entirely, a fact that underscores how closely their chemical defenses are tied to the ecology of the forest floor. Their bold coloration serves not just as a deterrent, but as a form of aposematism, a visual language spoken across species lines. A juvenile snake, encountering its first poison dart frog, may learn the lesson through a mouthful of burning numbness and a prolonged illness. If it survives, it will remember, and that memory becomes a small evolutionary nudge toward recognition and avoidance. In this way, the frog teaches its predators without killing them outright, though some species, particularly the more toxic varieties, are fully capable of doing so. But the frog's story is not one of simple threat. It is part of a complex reproductive drama that plays out in the micro-waters of the forest understory. After a male has claimed a small patch of territory, often no larger than a few square meters, he uses his call to attract a female. If accepted, the pair engages in a silent ritual that ends with the female laying a small clutch of eggs on a damp leaf or rock. The male then takes over, guarding the eggs with a vigilance rare in amphibians. He keeps them moist, fending off predators and parasites until they hatch into tiny, squirming tadpoles. At this point, a remarkable behavior emerges. The male, or in some species the female, transports each tadpole one at a time on its back to individual pools of water. These may be rain-filled axils in bromeliads, palm leaf bases, or the narrow crevices of tree holes. The key is separation. Tadpoles placed together often cannibalize one another, especially in nutrient-poor environments. To prevent this, each tadpole is given its own aquatic cradle. The process requires dozens of trips, sometimes spanning days, and it places the adult at considerable risk as it navigates open terrain again and again. In species like Ufaga pumilio, the story continues. The mother returns regularly to deposit unfertilized eggs into the tadpole's pool. These eggs are not mistakes, but food. The tadpole feeds exclusively on them, relying on its mother's sustained provisioning until metamorphosis. This level of parental investment is extraordinary among amphibians and highlights just how precarious and selective the rainforest environment can be. A misplaced tadpole, an overlooked pool, or a break in provisioning may spell the end of that reproductive effort. There are no second chances. And yet this system persists because it works, efficiently producing a new generation of chemically armed, vividly colored survivors. Not all dart frogs are equally toxic, and not all predators are equally deterred. Some species of snake, particularly in the genus Limatophis, have evolved resistance to batrachotoxins and are among the few vertebrate predators known to consume these frogs. Their existence serves as a reminder that no defense is perfect, and that even the most potent chemical arsenal has its vulnerabilities. Evolution is not about absolutes. It is about margins of survival, of reproduction, of time bought in a hostile world. Curiously, the indigenous peoples of Western Colombia have long understood the potency of these frogs. Using careful handling techniques, they extract the toxin from wild-caught Philobates species by either rubbing the frog against the tips of blow darts or heating it gently over a flame to induce secretion. The result? is a weaponized projectile capable of taking down monkeys and birds with a single wound. This practice, which gives the frogs their common name, is not widespread and is carefully controlled. Not all dart frogs are toxic enough to be used this way, and the skill of selecting the correct species and handling it safely is passed down generationally. In this case, indigenous knowledge intersects with biochemical reality in a manner few modern societies could replicate without laboratory precision. Despite their biological armor, poison dart frogs are not immune to the larger pressures that now shape the rainforest. Habitat fragmentation, pollution, and the introduction of fungal pathogens such as Batrachochytrium dendrobatidis, the cause of chytridiomycosis, pose significant threats to their populations. Even slight changes in humidity or temperature can disrupt breeding cycles, alter the composition of their diet, or expose them to previously benign bacteria. Captive breeding programs, while successful in preserving some genetic diversity, cannot replicate the intricate chemical interactions required for natural toxicity. The frogs may survive in zoos and terrariums, but without their wild ecosystems, they become beautiful, harmless shadows of themselves. Ultimately, the poison dart frog is not defined solely by its color or its chemical defenses. It is a product of thousands of subtle interactions, a convergence of diet, microclimate, parenting strategy, and predator memory. It thrives not because it is immune to danger, but because it has weaponized the very process of being noticed. In the tangle of leaves and light that makes up the rainforest floor, it moves without urgency, exposed but untouched. Its body is a warning. Its life is a gamble that for now continues to pay off. The forest around it buzzes, hums, pulses with unseen life. But the frog, still and radiant on its perch, remains an anchor in that chaos, a quiet, vibrant sentinel whose brilliance belies its deadliness. In a world of hidden threats, it is death in plain sight. The rainforest at night breathes differently. The air feels heavier, laden with water vapor and the mingled scents of ripe fruit, damp bark, and the subtle decay that seeps from every layer of decomposing plant matter. Chirps, clicks, and rhythmic pulses replace the daytime chorus of birds as amphibians and nocturnal insects announce their presence through vibration and echo. Light, where it filters in, comes not from above, but from the scattered glow of bioluminescent fungi and the reflected eyeshine of creatures watching from the understory. This is a world built on tension, an ecosystem that doesn't sleep but reconfigures itself as predators trade shifts with the dark. And among the most feared of these nocturnal predators is one that leaves no web, no signal, no second chance. It is Phoneutria, the Brazilian wandering spider. Unlike most of its relatives, this spider does not spin a web to catch its prey. It does not rely on traps, snares, or adhesive strands. Instead, it hunts on foot, actively, aggressively, and often unpredictably. It is large, leg spans stretching up to 15 centimeters in adult females, with a body cloaked in dense, earth-toned hairs that blend seamlessly into the forest floor. But its most defining feature is not its size. It's the speed, the burst, the controlled violence it brings to every ambush. The Brazilian wandering spider does not wander aimlessly. Its name reflects its behavior. It roams, moving quickly and silently across the substrate, from leaf litter to tree bark to human dwellings at the forest edge. During the day, it hides in dark, moist crevices, in banana leaves, hollow logs, or behind stones, where it remains motionless, conserving energy and avoiding detection. Come dusk, it emerges, guided by sensitive hairs that detect air currents, vibrations, and subtle shifts in the world around it. Every movement is purposeful, every step a calculation. When it hunts, it does so without hesitation. A beetle crossing the forest floor, a creature equipped with its own thick armor and defense, might seem like an unwise target. But to Phonutria, it's a challenge, not a deterrent. The spider freezes, forelegs raised in a posture that is both threat display and preparatory stance. Then it lunges, not with a clumsy leap, but with a lightning-fast stride that closes the distance in milliseconds. Its chelicerae, black and curved like sickles, sink into the beetle's exoskeleton, delivering a payload of potent neurotoxins that begin disabling the prey's nervous system almost instantly. The beetle struggles briefly, then goes limp. The venom of Phonutria is among the most pharmacologically complex in the arachnid world. Containing a cocktail of neurotoxic peptides and proteins, it disrupts synaptic transmission, triggering paralysis, respiratory failure, and, in larger doses, convulsions. In mammals, including humans, it causes intense pain, muscular spasms, and, in rare cases, death. But even more unusually, the venom contains compounds that affect vascular function, leading to a mix of symptoms both feared and studied by medical researchers. For the spider, though, the function is simple: stop the prey from escaping, digest it from within, and feed with maximum efficiency. Feeding begins soon after the prey is immobilized. Like many spiders, Phonutria cannot ingest solid matter. Instead, it injects digestive enzymes into the victim's body, which break down soft tissues into a nutrient-rich slurry. This is then drawn up through the spider's straw-like mouthparts over the course of several minutes. The feeding is silent, methodical, and often interrupted by bouts of alertness as the spider lifts its front legs at the slightest tremor in the substrate. It can eat and defend itself simultaneously, a trait born from its predatory lifestyle and exposure to threat from every direction. Despite its arsenal, the Brazilian wandering spider is not invincible. In its juvenile stages, it is vulnerable to birds, larger insects, reptiles, and even other spiders. Its own kind can pose a risk as well. Cannibalism is not uncommon among arachnids, and in crowded or resource-scarce environments, conspecifics may become both competitors and prey. As a result, Phonutria juveniles grow fast and disperse early, reducing the risk of predation and intraspecific aggression. Their lives are defined by urgency: feed quickly, molt, and move on before they become a target themselves. Mating in Phonutria is a precarious process. Males approach females cautiously, using vibratory signals, tapping and trembling the substrate, to indicate their identity and avoid being mistaken for food. If the female is receptive, copulation proceeds, often lasting several minutes. If not, the male risks being killed before he ever has a chance to pass on his genes. Successful males rarely linger. The instinct to flee immediately after mating is not cultural. It is a survival adaptation refined through countless generations of fatal hesitation. One of the most unnerving traits of Phonutria is its proximity to human settlements. Unlike other rainforest specialists that vanish when disturbed, this spider adapts. It finds refuge in banana plantations, woodpiles, and laundry left outside overnight. Its presence in agricultural areas has earned it another name: the banana spider, not to be confused with orb weavers bearing similar nicknames. Incidents of human envenomation, while rare, are often serious, requiring hospitalization. Most bites occur when the spider is accidentally disturbed, trapped in clothing, stepped on, or brushed against. Defensive in these scenarios, Phonutria does not chase or stalk humans, but it will not hesitate to defend itself with a full injection of venom. Yet, ironically, what makes Phonutria dangerous also makes it scientifically valuable. Its venom contains molecules with potential applications in neurology, pain management, and cardiovascular research. One compound, in particular, a peptide known as TX26, has shown potential in stimulating blood flow and treating erectile dysfunction, a side effect unexpected but not unwelcome among researchers. This duality, a spider both feared and studied, exemplifies the complex role venomous animals play in human understanding of biology. Within its ecosystem, the wandering spider occupies a unique niche. It acts as both predator and competitor to a variety of other arthropods. It influences the behavior of prey species, forcing them to become more cryptic, more nocturnal, more cautious. Its presence reshapes microhabitats, even as it remains largely unseen. The jungle floor, already a labyrinth of scent trails, decomposing matter, and ephemeral life, becomes even more treacherous when Phoneutria is abroad. Few predators move with such range and purpose in the dark. Fewer still can strike as swiftly and with as lasting an effect. In the larger context of rainforest biodiversity, Phoneutria is not a dominant species by biomass or by range, but its impact is outsized. It is a reminder that in the dense weave of life beneath the canopy, danger does not always announce itself with sound or size. Sometimes it arrives in perfect silence, propelled by legs as fast as snapping twigs, with a venom that science is still struggling to understand. To encounter the Brazilian wandering spider is to be faced with the full, indifferent calculation of predation. There is no malice in its attack, only the efficient conversion of motion into opportunity. In a forest where so much death is hidden, drawn out, or ritualized, Phoneutria delivers its message quickly. The night is not empty, and speed is survival. At first light, the rainforest awakens not in a surge, but in a slow, swelling murmur. Mists uncurl from the damp floor like breath, drifting upward until they disappear into the latticed canopy above. Water condenses along every surface, leaf, web, wing, and gravity reclaims it drop by drop, producing a steady rhythm that mingles with the faint buzzing of insects and the hesitant calls of birds still gauging the morning's warmth. In this moment of delicate transition between darkness and day, the forest is saturated with quiet activity. It is not the jaguar's tread or the monkey's shout that dominate this hour, but the minuscule movements of life measured in grams and microns. And these are not passive presences. They are predators, parasites, mimics and murderers, minute in form but staggering in influence. For all the grandeur and scale of tropical biodiversity, the ecological gears that drive these forests are turned most efficiently by the small. Insects, spiders, frogs, fungi, mites and microbes form the foundation of every interaction that follows. They pollinate, recycle, decompose, transmit and kill. They shape behavior in larger animals and determine which plants flourish, spread or vanish. They are the uncelebrated architects of biomass conversion and the biological gatekeepers of predator-prey dynamics. And many of them, when observed closely, operate with a level of specialization that borders on the improbable. A single square meter of rainforest floor may harbor over 100 species of invertebrates, each one equipped with tools honed to specific purposes. There is the ant that farms a single fungal strain underground with the care of an agriculturalist. There is the beetle larva that mimics the smell of carrion to draw in unsuspecting flies, then devours them. There is the mite that hitchhikes on a frog's back to new hunting grounds, only to parasitize its new host once the opportunity arises. Here, camouflage is never just color, it's texture, movement, posture, even smell. Predators don't merely blend in, they assume the form of what their prey most expects to see. Sometimes it's the appearance of harmless debris, sometimes a flower, sometimes another insect entirely. Predation among these micro-predators is rarely dramatic in the cinematic sense. There are no drawn-out chases or snarling confrontations, but it is ruthless. The assassin bug impales its quarry and drinks it alive. The bullet ant paralyzes threats with a sting that sends shockwaves of pain through vertebrate nervous systems. The wandering spider delivers venom calibrated to overtake prey larger than itself within seconds. And the poison dart frog, though silent and slow-moving, wears death on its skin in the form of chemical weapons evolved through diet and biology. What connects these animals is not just their lethality, but the efficiency of it. The scale at which they operate demands speed, precision, and certainty. A missed strike for a small predator is not a minor inconvenience. It is a loss of vital energy, or worse, a fatal exposure. There is no buffer, no margin of error. A single failed hunt can spell starvation. A single encounter with a misidentified rival can end in death. As a result, these creatures live in a state of high-resolution awareness, constantly balancing risk and reward. Their entire evolutionary design reflects this pressure. Yet within this seemingly violent world, there is balance. These predators regulate populations of herbivores and scavengers. They influence plant distribution by shaping insect behavior. Even their failures, when a predator becomes prey or when a mimic is unmasked, feed into the continuous transfer of energy that sustains the forest. Death here is not disorder. It is function. It is the mechanism by which life is redistributed, converted, and recirculated. One creature's demise is another's sustenance, another's shelter, another's reproductive opportunity. And the influence of these creatures extends far beyond their physical size. Consider the bullet ant again, not merely a stinging insect, but a territorial force whose presence alters how other species forage and move. Consider the poison dart frog, whose dietary needs and reproductive methods shape the very composition of invertebrate communities in its territory. Even the wandering spider, solitary and silent, displaces competitors and regulates prey species simply by moving through a patch of ground. These small killers create ripple effects that reach through the ecosystem in ways that are difficult to measure but undeniable in consequence. Even among humans, these animals have left a mark. Indigenous peoples have learned which creatures to avoid, which to harness, and which to revere. Knowledge of venom, mimicry, and chemical defenses is etched into traditional stories and survival practices. In modern laboratories, researchers isolate peptides and alkaloids from spider venom or frog skin for use in medical research, pursuing treatments for chronic pain, blood pressure regulation, and neural disorders. The same chemicals that evolved to kill are now being studied to heal. It is a strange, almost poetic turn, one that reveals how little separates danger from utility when viewed through the lens of biology. But these intricate systems are fragile. The very traits that make these miniature predators so effective are often tied to specific microhabitats, narrow dietary ranges, or precise climate conditions. Remove the leaf litter from a patch of forest and the assassin bugs vanish. Change the humidity by a few degrees and the poison dart frog can no longer breed. Introduce agricultural runoff or pesticide drift, and the web of chemical signals that guide ant colonies or parasitic wasps begins to collapse. These creatures are not resilient generalists, they are specialists, hyper-adapted to the forest's complexity and vulnerable to its unraveling. The true power of these animals lies not in their venom or speed, but in their integration. They are deeply embedded in the machinery of the forest, its food webs, reproductive strategies, chemical exchanges, and survival games. They are not alone in their cunning or cruelty, but they are among the most refined examples of what evolution can produce when the stakes are constant and the margins are razor thin. Their stories are not just curiosities for naturalists. They are indicators of ecological function, biological sophistication, and increasingly environmental decline. As the rainforest brightens under the rising sun and the cycle of hunting, hiding, and surviving begins anew, these creatures fade back into their niches. The spider returns to its crevice, The frog stills on its leaf. The ant resumes its march along the route. None of them dominate the scene, yet all of them shape it. They are not seen unless looked for, not heard unless disturbed, but their presence is felt in every layer of soil, every inch of bark, every twitch in the foliage. In the end, it is not the size of a creature that determines its influence, but the precision with which it acts. The jungle is not merely a place of large, dramatic lives. It is perhaps more than anything a realm of tiny, terrible ones. And without them, the forest would cease not with a crash, but with a silence so complete it could only come from the absence of things too small to notice, yet too vital to lose.